Maximize your mornings for an all-new season of Beast Machines.
Fantastic.
You'll meet new friends,
The name's Botanica.
new enemies, yes, plus a ton of new thrills. Blammo! Catch an all-new Beast Machines today at 10 a.m. only on Fox Kids.
I ought to sell tickets.
Alright everybody, we're doing it. We're doing Beast Machines. So some of you may be asking, what is Beast Machines? And to answer that, I'd have to first explain what Beast Wars is. I did a video on Beast Wars just a few weeks ago, so that's probably the best way to find out more about it and my thoughts. But for a brief synopsis, it's a Transformers G1 continuation that takes place on prehistoric Earth and features Transformers that change into animals rather than vehicles. But most importantly, it's a ton of fun and super worth watching. Beast Machines is the follow-up to Beast Wars. It takes the series in a far darker direction, set in a dystopian Cybertron that has been completely taken over by Megatron. Not OG Megatron, Beast Wars Megatron. Totally different. The show features a new setting, new designs, and some new characters. If I had to compare this show to anything aesthetically, I'd say it's like Beast Wars meets Alien meets Tetsuo the Iron Man. And if you think that sounds awesome, prepare for disappointment. The reception to this show has always been fairly mixed. Some people seem to think it's very underappreciated, while others flat out despise it. As you can already see from this video's title, I myself am not a fan and have quite a lot of negative things to say about the series. And that's not to say that it's all bad, as the show does have a lot of good ideas. It's just that the things I disliked about it kind of overshadowed a lot of that stuff. Unlike Beast Wars, a show that figured out a lot as the story progressed, Beast Machines had its whole story planned out from the start. You think that would have resulted in a better show, but unfortunately that just was not the case. Beast Machines was once again animated by Mainframe Studios and released in September of 1999, just 6 months after the end of Beast Wars. The show's animation actually looks super impressive, given the short amount of time provided to work on it. You'll instantly notice how much smoother a lot of it is. It's still not perfect by any means, but all things considered, the animation looks quite nice. Though it is important to note that there is a big difference between animation and character design, because while I praise the animation, these character designs are rough. At first I kind of liked the creepiness of the designs, given that it tied in well with the show's darker tone, but I will admit, having to look at them through a total of 26 episodes was not easy on the eyes. Perhaps the worst decision when it came to the designs was giving the Maximals pupils. The eyes look really derpy at times, and the wide-angle lens type shots they always used only made that more apparent. It's really frustrating considering that if they had just given them glowing eyes like the ones in Beast Wars, I wouldn't have constantly been distracted by this. And that's not to say that all the designs are bad, just the ones for the Maximals really. The Vehicons, who are brainwashed followers of Megatron and antagonists in the show, actually have really cool designs, even if they look nothing like their toy counterparts. Also, if I'm gonna pick a favorite character from this series, it's gotta be Jetstorm. There's just something about those gay Transformers that's the best.
Spider Babe at 12 o'clock. Jetstorm Afterburn.
There's a lot of stuff continuity-wise here that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. In many ways, Beast Machines is a continuation, but it also feels like a soft reboot of sorts. None of the characters in the show feel like the same ones from Beast Wars. They share the same voice actors, but it very much feels like in a desperate attempt to make the show darker, there were plenty of questionable changes made. Characters like Optimus Primal, who was once a very reasonable and understanding leader, is changed into more of a crazy cult leader who constantly converses with the Oracle, a powerful deity who wishes to help Primal find the balance between nature and technology on Cybertron.
The key is finding the balance in yourself. Then and only then can you truly say, I am transformed.
It's an idea that could have worked had the show gone all out with it, but it being a kid's show, it's really held back from taking that idea too far, and results in pretty much nothing interesting being done with it. The most notable change to these characters is the constant arguing.
If my beast mode were as ugly as hers, I wouldn't want to go back either.
You think this is a joke?
In Beast Wars, the Maximals argued quite a lot, but it was pretty well balanced considering the show's lighter tone. They still had a lot of light-hearted, friendlier moments as well. Someone writing for Beast Machines must have thought that arguing was the best way to give the show that darker edge, and it's a decision that I really hate. It makes the characters much less likable.
With friends like you, who needs Megatron?
Yeah, Night Scream is right. Who needs Megatron? Megatron is a far more competent and more serious take on the character in this series, which isn't entirely bad, but it isn't nearly as fun to watch either. It made me miss his Beast Wars counterpart. However, this is one of those character changes that I am more forgiving towards. If you're going to give the show a darker tone, taking the villain more seriously is a step in the right direction, even if it's not my favorite portrayal of him. But of all the characters, the two who got the most royally fucked over was without a doubt Rhinox and Silverbolt. And in case spoilers are something you care about, you can skip to this time in the video. So anyway, anyone who watched the show knows that the Vehicons turned out to be carrying the sparks of some of the Maximals' old friends, including Rhinox and Silverbolt. The Maximals managed to remind Rhinox in the body of Tanker who he originally was, only rather than turning to their side again, he chooses to become his own independent villain. Having Rhinox act as a villain not only feels out of place for the character, but the concept in itself feels incredibly underutilized.
My pawns are poised to destroy one another. And when they are finished, only I will be left standing.
It would have been pretty cool to see Tankor take over as the main villain, overpowering Megatron, but that unfortunately never happens. And then there's Silverbolt, who, as it turns out, was in the body of Jetstorm the entire time. Once the Maximals finally managed to transfer his spark, Silverbolt is an A-grade asshole who often ignores his love interest, Black Arachnia, a character he would have died for in Beast Wars.
We have to find where they're holding Optimus and Cheetor.
They're your concern. I'm only here for Megatron.
Supposedly Scott McNeil's idea was to give Silverbolt more of a Frank Miller Batman impression, since the original Silverbolt was much more of an Adam West type. It's yet another example of unnecessary changes made simply for the sake of having that darker, edgier show. And while I am talking about spoilers, I think now would be a good time to mention one of the show's most hated elements. So Cybertron, you know, that big mechanical planet with all the robots on it. Well, in Beast Machines, it is revealed that the planet was once entirely organic. I think the main reason a lot of fans hate this idea is because of how sudden it feels in the show. It changes a lot of what we know of Transformers and expects us to just accept it with little to no build-up. And even though I am not entirely a fan of this plot point, I am willing to defend it. I mean, we know a lot about the creation of the Transformers themselves from the G1 cartoon, but until this point, the planet's origins was never entirely touched upon. So could the planet have been organic at one point? Yes, but it still could have been handled better. Half of Beast Machines is just the Maximals being chased by the Vehicons. It gets old really fast. I even started watching an episode I wasn't aware I had already seen, and it took me like 10 minutes into the episode to realize it. I just really started zoning out of the show by the second season. I think a contributing factor to this was probably the somewhat bland and lifeless setting of Beast Machines. As mentioned before, the animation itself is nice, and a lot of work was probably put into these backgrounds, but this incarnation of Cybertron, just like the constant chase scenes, gets old pretty fast. I honestly hate this form of reviewing where I just constantly criticize something that a lot of work and effort was put into. It's way easier to say a show is bad than it is to actually create it. So in an attempt to get some more positivity in this video, I will admit there are a few aspects of Beast Machines that I really liked. For one, the music in the show kicks ass. The background music was provided by Robert Buckley and has this sort of electronic techno feel to it that helps define the show's tone. The opening is called Fat Planet by Left Field, and it is equally as awesome. It's easily my favorite opening theme to a Transformers cartoon, and is drenched in those late 90s, early 2000s-esque Matrix vibes. Well, my favorite in the US at least. Nothing beats the Japanese opening for Transformers Animated. But what else did I like about this show? Well, I will admit, it had a lot of good ideas. The concept of a darker Beast Wars continuation set on Cybertron is something that by all means could have worked. Its flaws are all in its execution. Overall, I think it is safe to say that darker is not always better, and Beast Machines is the living proof of that. The problem with Beast Machines isn't just being dark though, it's that it's too edgy for kids, but not edgy enough to be for adults either. It kind of meets this awkward point in the middle and ends up being a bore. If this show had gotten the same treatment as something like the Samurai Jack continuation on Adult Swim, it could have been something pretty amazing. But even today, I can't see a Transformers show ever getting that sort of treatment, so long as there's toys to sell. Beast Machines is not the worst thing ever, and if you enjoy it, good on you, but to me, it sure was a letdown. There's still some hope for Beast Wars, as Hasbro recently announced the third season of their War for Cybertron trilogy on Netflix would be a crossover between G1 and Beast Wars. I honestly was not a fan of the show's first season, but who knows, maybe this will encourage Hasbro to do more Beast Wars content in the future. Until then, we'll just have to wait and see. So those are my thoughts on Beast Machines. Thank you to everyone who checked out this video, and I hope I'll be seeing you all again soon. Goodbye.